Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hurdle the Line. This is episode 70. I cannot believe we've got to 70 episodes already, and to celebrate such a monumental uh, milestone, I could only do it with my very good friend Chapman. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Hello, everybody. How are you doing, Fletch? It's always weird when you're the host and I mean, I like the taking the back seat, but you
Yeah.
know,
Listen, we gave you so much power throughout the season, and then
I
all of a
know. No,
sudden,
I get a break. This is my
yeah.
this is my like time off. I love it.
Um, but all good over here. It's now school holidays, so I'm spending my weeks looking at running around after a very, very nearly 8 year old, which is always fun. Spent the day, I don't, it's really interesting. The arcade yesterday,
Oh, that's cool.
and took me, Mrs. Fletch, little lady Fletch, and my brother. £46 for all four of us. There are hundreds of arcade games going all the way back from the 80s, all the way up until like modern Xboxes and whatnot. All of them are free when you're in.
Oh, nice.
Unlimited go. So we were playing like retro. We were playing the original Pac-Man and all that sort of stuff, and Donkey Kong and things like that, all the way up to playing. My brother spent a ungodly amount of time playing Fortnite, because that's what you go to play arcade games for. You go to go on Fortnite, which was fun.
Right.
Um, and anyone who is particularly of that ilk or enjoys arcade games, it's called Arcade Club, but they're starting to pop up a bit more anywhere else. So fully recommend it.
That's
Um,
cool.
so, well, let's just get into it. So the owners, with the news. So the owners, obviously, as we spoke last week on the podcast with me and Tom, the owners met last week, and a number of rule changes were put forward. All the head coaches were there as well, which was really nice to see. And we got the annual head coach photo of all 32 of them. But some of the rules that have been brought forward and that were voted on have well, they were coming out throughout while we were there. So some playoff rules some playing rules, in-game rules have changed. The kickoff touchbacks will now be from the 35-yard line. This is to promote more returns on kickoffs and things like that. Which to, so overtime has changed in the regular season. Both teams will now get an opportunity to handle the ball, even if, as obviously as of usual, well, the usual regular season overtime is if you get the ball first and you score a touchdown, the game is over. Both teams now that well, that will no longer be the case. However, overtime will now be 10 minutes instead of 15. And finally, instant replay has been expanded to advise on objective or administrative calls in all of those circumstances. Starting with the on-field rule changes, what do you think about those three, Chapman?
Um, well, I think the most interesting one, obviously for me personally, is man, I wish we'd had this overtime rule 9 years ago. But I think that's good. I think it's fair. I'm glad they've changed that. It's something that's needed to change for a long time, and we've seen it's worked in the playoffs. Also, you know, I've given up that the kickoff is going to just eventually be taken out of the game at some point. I'm not sure if it's next 5 years, but it just feels like we're inching towards that. But we'll see. Which is sad, but I don't get the play if it doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah, yeah, we'll see. I do like that the NFL is proactive about trying stuff and obviously trying to make things better, and
Yeah.
they're not just there's still other frustrating things, and some of these things that got tabled or whatever, but yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. So also included in that, by the way, is totally forgot to bring it up. Was Hawkeye will now be officially part of the NFL
I was
this
waiting
year.
for
That's
that.
that is the digital measurement system for the line to gain. I believe it is meant to work a bit more like the goal line technology in football or the Hawkeye tennis measurement system. Hopefully, so it should be pretty instantaneous. You either cross the line or you don't, and the referee will get that well, somehow get that almost instant notification. And again, just with more instant replay and their power being expanded to certain calls with the Hawkeye, how are we feeling about how the game or how the NFL are trying to improve the calls that are made and try and make sure that, particularly in terms of objective calls, that they are getting them right with no margin for error?
Yeah. And that's what you want. And I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be let's say it's probably not going to be a cure-all, but I think it's going to be slightly better than the antiquated system. And I know that the chain gain's still going to be on the sidelines too, so there'll be
Hmm.
two measurements. But my hope is that it speeds up some of this stuff in the game, if that makes any sense. So,
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been there in football before, where goal line technology just hasn't worked. We've seen goals still that have crossed the line by 2 yards, and
mm,
the thing just hasn't buzzed on the referee's wrist when it happens. Technology can and will go down. Things can and will go wrong. Where things like that are key. So having the chain gangs there is going to be really, really helpful. The next
yeah.
kind of cluster of three, clubs can now designate two players who are designated for return upon the roster cut down to 53. Now, playoff teams are allowed an additional two designated for return players. That was eight and is now going up to 10. And finally, the point differential is now the third tiebreaker for awarding contracts, is the way the NFL put it. Thoughts on these ones? Any in
Mm,
particular?
no, not really.
No. Um, I didn't. I be honest with you, I did not think that there would be. Um, but finally, clubs can now have one for 1 year only. Clubs can have one video or phone call with no more than five unrestricted free agents during the 2 day negotiating period. This is to allow when they've negotiated and agreed upon terms, they can now call
Legal
and
tampering. Legal
yeah,
tampering is what it's called. The
uh,
weirdest weirdest term in sports, legal tampering. Yes.
yeah,
If you'll remember, the Falcons lost a fifth round pick this year because when we were courting Kirk Cousins, apparently our media and PR people reached out and talked to Kirk directly, and he decided to mention that during his opening presser with the team, and there was an investigation, and we lost a fifth round pick.
and now it's allowed. Sod's law, isn't it, Carl? That's what it is. Sod's law. Um, so
Same
there's
as Murphy's Law?
not quite, although it is of the same ilk as Murphy's law.
Okay, I'll have to look that one up.
Sod's law is very much a British colloquialism.
Got it.
Um, it's not quite that if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. It's more just it's like tough luck.
Yeah,
Of course, it happens just after you got it. It's resolved just after you
it's
are hit
fine.
by it. Yeah.
It's fine.
Um, kicking footballs can now be prepared the day before game day. It's similar to all the other footballs. For all my years of watching the sport, did not know that we had genuinely different balls for kicking and handling. This one is new to me.
You
And
didn't learn that after Deflategate?
I don't know. I just kind of knew. I've never really looked bothered with Deflategate as I think 'cause it kind of happened just before my time.
Well, so basically, yeah. So all the quarterbacks have all their balls, and they're all to a certain way that they like their, because some like,
Yeah.
whatever. And you can have and then yeah, and then I would assume I might be an idiot about this, but I assume the balls for kicking are probably at the max filled because they probably will travel further, I think.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
But yeah, this is similar to the process permitted for game footballs. And finally, uh, this will clubs that qualify for the postseason may obtain scouting credentials for two consecutive games, week 17 and 18, played by a potential postseason opponent. It also requires clubs hosting wildcard games to provide scouting credentials to all teams within the same conference who are participating in the postseason. That is a
Cool.
yeah. So they can be there. Yeah. But just really quickly, any thoughts anymore on any of those things?
Not really, but I just wonder, like, what do you get? I mean, why would you need to be there? You could just take like I guess the only thing is you don't want just a broadcast, so you'd want to like it's your own personal all 22, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. All
Um,
right. That makes sense.
Finally, the only other two pieces that we've got are Kayvon Walker's fifth-year option has been picked up by the Jags.
Yep.
And I know it was said that this isn't really interesting, and I don't want to put much on it, but it does pertain to one of our host teams, and is that the Rams are now building are officially now going to build their permanent headquarters. If you were familiar with the draft, you'd be familiar with their war room from out in the hills in California.
Yeah, it
The
wasn't like a
Rams
sick, it was like a
house,
sick house. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They did a good job of that.
yeah. So that might or probably will go. I don't know if they want to keep that just for the draft, but the Rams house is probably out. And how long have they been in LA now? It's
Uh
7 years, 8 years.
I No, it's got to be 10. Let's Google.
That's what I'm doing.
Uh
Returned to Los Angeles for the 2016 season.
yeah, so it'll be 10 years next year.
Yeah,
Okay, so 9 years. I was close.
between us,
Yeah.
we're right there. The
Right, right on the cusps.
10 years, and now they will finally get their permanent home and headquarters
I
in
think
LA.
they're fine. I think they're doing just fine.
Yeah. Um, but I think the main thing we kind of need to start talking about today is it is now April. It is the draft month. The draft is on its way, and we'll just I
It's
think
like Christmas in spring.
it's like Christmas, exactly that. And the thing is with Christmas is we obviously start talking about it in October and November and December, just similar to the way Card Factory have Christmas cards up in August and all of that sort of stuff. With the month before, it's time to start building up and really time to start getting everything. We're gonna start donning our Christmas jumpers and all that sort of stuff, decorating the house.
You really took that analogy just as far as you could.
I like it. I like analogies. That's where that's my nice sweet spot for life, I think, in general. So with that, the best thing to do, we're going to just kickstart nice and slow into our draft coverage and just open it up a little bit. So let me get back on. In fact, I totally forgot to do this before going on, and that's really, really bad.
All good.
Um, is open up the draft order, which obviously we all know that Tennessee Titans are picking
I
first.
got it right here if you want it.
Oh, I've got it now. The
Oh.
Tennessee Titans picking first, Cleveland Giants, New England, and then the Jags as the top five. Who, in your opinion, is going first? That top five is, I think, where the most interesting side of the coin lies. What happens within that top five sets the tone for everything and who falls out. Just going into it, who are the key names who you're looking at? Do you think who's going first? Is it a given? I think before we
Um,
start.
I mean, it's never a given, because the draft, one of the great things about the draft, and as someone who's watched the draft for a bajillion years, you never know what's going to happen. But because of the scarcity of quarterbacks, and they're really just being, I mean, two, but I would say, you know, hands down, one that feels like unanimously is a first round grade. I think Cam Ward will more than likely be going to the Tennessee Titans, unless Tennessee gets a Godfather offer, as we like to say, to move down.
Yeah.
Um, And I'm not quite sure in this specific draft they're going to get that because one of the things I read a lot about, like, there's a lot of good players, but there's not a ton of blue chip first round players in this draft, which usually means then and there's not a lot of offensive ones, which is, in
Yeah.
outside of and the defensive players that are premium here, there's quite a few. So what that means is that trading will be slightly devalued in this draft in terms of now somebody, also the great thing about the draft is there's a lot of stupid teams. There's a lot of teams that do dumb
Yeah.
things in the draft out of pressure or out of need or out of just pure, silliness. So you say all that, and then somebody could mortgage the farm for something, but you never know. But it doesn't feel like that's this draft, with all said and done. So I do think Cam Ward's going to go first. I think Tennessee, I really liked Cam Ward coming out. And I think I definitely mentioned on our chat group last year during the season several times because I got to watch Miami play and I really I thought he was a great college prospect. He impressed me in certain times. I know he doesn't quite have it all. But you know, if I'm Tennessee, I'm excited that I'm getting him here in the first draft.
Okay.
After that, I would argue that it's not the first five. I really think it's the first four picks. So if Cam Ward goes first, it's really, really interested to see what the Browns do. Um, the Browns obviously need a quarterback,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of talk about whether Shedeur Sanders is worth taking that high. They have an, all pro, future Hall of Fame edge player, Miles Garrett. Do they take, you know, Abdul Carter, basically like what most people think is the best player in the draft,
Hmm.
and you pair those two up and you just, you know, wreak havoc all over the field, which I don't know. Watching the Eagles do what they do, that's what I would do if I was the Browns.
Yep.
Or do you take the unicorn Travis Henry, who, might be a great cornerback for you and then can come in and play some third down wide receiver or,
Yeah.
so the Browns to me hinge the whole thing because I don't know about you, but I think if they don't take Shador, I think the Giants are definitely going to take him. What do you think? What's your opinion?
Well, my query here with the Giants is if they're going to take someone like Shador Sanders, and that's their plan from day one. The way that those top two Shador and Cam will not go in the top two together. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, so if the Giants could rest quite easily saying we're going to get either Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, probably Shador Sanders, and not, why they would then get Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson in the building at the same time with Tommy DeVito, I'm not 100% sure. Um, I doesn't make a lot of sense to me when you put in that kind of it's not a lot of
Mm.
money, but when you put in some kind of money in that room already. So I think yeah, Cam Ward is right now for me for me the number one. Just by the way things look like they're going, Will Levis is not the answer in Tennessee,
No, no, no.
and that's not going to change. He had every opportunity this year. They put some talent around. Okay, not the greatest talent around him, but they put some talent around him, and he couldn't make it work. Cleveland, th this is where it all goes. Thinking for me is with Cleveland, and I say this with all love and respect to our good friend Ollie here. Every time we sit there and say, "Well, Cleveland cannot mess this up now," Abdul Carter in this, Abdul Carter is right there. The obvious option is right there. The best option is right there. Cleveland, all you have to do is just write the correct name on that piece of paper. Cleveland tend to be the ones who do the thing that and just kind of go, well, we're going to do something different. We're going to do that's just not how we're going to do it here today. Um, I don't see that being the real case here, but Cleveland are always a wild card who can pull something out of the bag that you just don't do the thing that they shouldn't do. And that's where again the Giants. I do think they'll take Abdul Carter if Cam Ward goes first. The Giants I think Travis Hunter falls on you. That's Travis Hunter fell on your lap, which isn't you have to in that position. New England have Drake May, Jacksonville. I think they're going to well, they're set with Trevor Lawrence, and
Trevor
they're not
Lawrence.
going to move on from Trevor Lawrence. Shadar Sanders is now out of the top five. Um,
Yeah.
so and this is where I think that the best part of the market is on either defensive end or in the DBs, maybe in the corners. It's not as good as the DN class, but it's arguably the second best class of the year. There are some guys I'd like to see. So I'm not trying to be a homer when I say this, but if Mason Graham doesn't go in the top five, I think that's going to be really easy to really interesting to see how the defensive ends then fall. Sorry, the D tackles fall and how defensive line falls because Mason Graham is consistently projected by most people to be a top five, but he does kind of wobble a little bit going out of that top five. I'm not sure. And it does just depend, I think, again, just what do Cleveland do right there? They have the pin to well, they have the grenade. They can pull the pin and throw it in, or they can leave everybody to be calm and
Well,
business is normal.
to me, I think they have, I have a lot of respect for the people up in Cleveland outside of the Deshaun Watson debacle. Like they've done a lot of good things to build a good team. And if you remember, they were only in the playoffs like last year. And yes, they
Mhm.
have a history of, specifically the quarterback position, but a lot of times they have taken the quarterback they're supposed to, and it just hasn't worked out. It's a 50-50 proposition at the best in the first round with some of these. But anyway, I think I hope they take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I think you'll
Yeah.
be excited for either one of those. And I think you're right. If the Giants are smart, they take the other of the two. But I think the Giants need to sell hope. And I think Brian Daboll and what's his name? I'm gonna not pay. I'm just gonna call him. I don't pay Saquon Barkley. Um, I forgot his name. Joe Douglas. Is it Joe
That's
Douglas?
the one.
It's Joe Douglas. Wow, I can't believe I pulled that name out. See, this is how many podcasts I listen to. Anyway, they need to sell something, but again, I don't know. We'll see. And if Shador has the traits and Dayball thinks he can do something with him, I do think he could go there. If he doesn't go there, though, I wonder if he doesn't fall all the way down to Mrs. Fletch's lovely New Orleans Saints at number 9.
Just how
Little,
gritted were those teeth when you said lovely then?
oh, Mrs. Fletch is the best. What are you talking
No, but you
about?
weren't talking about Mrs. Fletch when you said lovely.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about Mrs. That, well, in a respectful way. No, I guess, yeah, I did say lovely New Orleans Saints. What would be killer is that if the New Orleans Saints took Shador Sanders, and Dion had to wear like Saint stuff, that would be what would crush my soul. That would be
Yeah.
really horrible for me. Uh, so I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, he's staying in Colorado now, so maybe he just sticks with Colorado gear and
No, 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 no. But if he would root for his son, I'm saying,
yeah,
not saying he's why, dude. Him becoming an NFL, like we gotta win in the college ranks first. Like, let's
yeah,
not all start. Let's calm down. I love Dion more than anybody. He was the reason I fell in love with the NFL. Like,
yeah.
but come on. All right.
But yeah, it would be interesting to see. But one of the things I think with some of these quarterback prospects is there are while there's no okay, Cam Ward you've got as the first round talent, definitely Shador. I've made no qualms on the college podcast. I do really like Shador Sanders. I don't think he's the number one overall pick that he was being projected as a few months ago by betting.
Mm.
I don't think that he's necessarily in any other given draft a top five pick, but I do really like him. I think he's a prospect. He's a really good prospect if you get him in the right QB room, learning behind the right guys. He could be someone who's really fun to watch in the next couple of years. But where I think the quarterback class lies is there are some really good quarterbacks in it. They're just not your top end quarterbacks. They are really, really nicely serviceable backups. They are when you go between like your Quinn Ewers is your Jackson Dart has really impressed me
Jackson Dart.
actually. Um,
Really?
I quite like watching Jackson Dart at Ole Miss throughout the season, but in the process leading up to the draft and through the combine and things like that, I'm really impressed with Jackson Dart and just kind of some of the things that he's doing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see his name kind of rise a little
Did,
bit.
did I mention to you last time I was on 2 weeks ago that my niece is going to Ole Miss?
You did
She
not.
is a Yeah, so she yeah, when I was home for the month, she she decided that yeah, she's a senior, she's going to graduate next month, and she is going to be attending Ole Miss. She's very excited. So now we have Georgia, Auburn, and Ole Miss all in the family.
Well, congratulations to your niece.
Keep
That's
it at SEC.
amazing
Whew.
news. Either way, that is amazing news.
Thanks.
So congratulations. But yeah, so Jackson Dart
Jackson Dart.
has really impressed me over the last few weeks. It's been so I see his name rising, and I've been quite happy to see his name rising. But there's that pocket of quarterbacks in the draft this year that I think you can turn into maybe they will be okay quarterbacks in a year or two after kind of sitting in the NFL for a couple of years. When you get into that range, there's some really good value in guys you can get in there. And I think there might be a couple of teams who, well, we need to find out what Aaron Rodgers does first. Um, but until then, you've got the likes of Pittsburgh, who are still desperately in need of a quarterback at the moment. And then you got some others who will either be desperate for a quarterback next year or not quite sure on whether the option they've got in right now is the best option, who may be looking around end of round two, beginning of round three for where they can kind of probably get the best value for a quarterback this year.
You think Jackson Dart goes in the second round?
Mm, late second, yes.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to take any of those, I think you wait and you see what falls in the third round. I mean, I think a second round pick is a little rich for what's after Sador Sanders. I agree with you too. What you were saying earlier about Sador, like he's definitely got a lot of great traits. It's funny is I mean, he's a traditional pocket passer, and I think he's a smart kid. He's probably gonna have a little bit more of a ease into the NFL just because obviously he's grown up in it,
Hmm.
and he's made a lot of money already too.
Yeah,
And like so it'll just be interesting what I think for him, and I don't want this coming off the wrong way. It'll be like how committed is he to being awesome?
yeah,
Because it feels like he's got some good traits, but it's like how can he get into a great environment where he can grow and maximize what he is as a quarterback? And same thing with Cam Ward, because I think Cam Ward's got a lot of good potential, but it's like, you got to go into the right situation. Um, and I don't know. Yeah, and there's still a lot to be figured out in the quarterback market right now. I mean, personally for me, I'm rooting for Aaron Rodgers to retire, though I don't think that's going to happen because then that makes the $100 million quarterback we got sitting in the garage a little more palatable for some people, but we'll see.
yeah.
Um, but anyway,
I mean,
uh,
well, for me, that so just there,
go ahead. Yeah,
it
yeah.
depends on where Shador goes, and if some teams, say the Giants, are willing to take a pass on him and say, actually, no, right now, I think we've got Russell Wilson and we've got Jameis Winston. That's enough for our starter this year. We don't need a first round starter this year. So what we're gonna they might dip into the third round or the fourth round and say pick up a Quinn Ewers or a Will Howard or someone of that kind of ilk and just say we'll see what we can kind of get out of that. But we've got what we need right now, just for right now. So we're not, and then give themselves the freedom to take a generational player like Travis Hunter or a generational player like an Abdul Carter or
Yeah.
bolster a particular part of the room when they're right there sitting on your lap. If Shador Sanders falls, then just by the nature of the way the draft works, your Jackson Darts fall, your Quinn Ewers is fall. Everyone starts to fall behind him in the quarterbacks. Whereas if, say, the Giants do pull the trigger on a Shador Sanders and then a couple other players fall, it's well, then what do Pittsburgh do at 21? Do they see a Jackson? Well, who do they see? And then how far does Jackson Dart come up? Because players like, well, Jackson Dart's the only one left that may be worth taking at this point. And it's always funny. Again, it's just funny to see how a player like Shador Sanders could still hold the key to where some of the rest of the QBs kind of fall and could bump everyone up on average 10 picks um, just by where he's taken, whether it's at three
What?
or whether it's at 21.
Yeah. What is your call? Does he go? Where do you? Okay. I wonder what the betting odds are on this. Like the betting odds, does he go in the top 10 or does he go in the top 25?
Um, that is a great question. I'm
Hmm.
sure I can have a look at that. Right.
My guess is if he gets past the Giants, he probably goes pretty far down. But
hmm
that's the Saints would be the only other team I could kind of think of that would potentially grab him.
Um, so by the looks of it with FanDuel, yeah, the absolute favourites to take him right now are the Saints.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh, and now you might have to help me out with this one. I'm pretty sure I get it now with the pluses and the minuses, but I'd rather not look stupid and you help me out here. Plus 300. If I was to put $10 on a plus 300 bet, I'm getting $40 back, which includes my stake.
Correct.
Correct. Right. So it's basically 3-1. Okay. Then the Giants come in just behind at plus 350. The Browns then are at plus 425 and the Steelers at 700. So there is the luck of the whole if he doesn't go with the Giants, then chances are the Saints will take him. If he doesn't go in the Saints, then he's not falling all the way to 21. Um it seems highly improbable the Jets, the Raiders, the Rams or the Colts are gonna jump in on him either.
I mean, the Raiders just gave Geno a 2-year extension, right?
Yep.
So he's there for 3 years. I think it was all good. So
Yep.
I think they're okay for a bit, but you never know. Um, I'm looking at a mock draft right here that has the Saints trading, weirdly enough, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back into the first round and getting Shador Sanders at 19. So, huh.
Um yeah, according to FanDuel. No, it's not FanDuel, sorry, it's DraftKings. Um those are the odds for who will take Shador Sanders. Uh,
So,
yeah,
am I ready? Am I allowed to transition us?
go for it.
Okay. So, out if you take Abdul Carter, Travis Henry off the board, who is your favorite? Who are some of your favorite other uh defensive players in this draft?
I
I know
mean,
you
yeah.
go ahead, you go. Sorry,
I
I
will say
shouldn't.
so. To be a homer for a second, I will say Mason. I've loved watching Mason Graham for the past 2 years. The dude's an absolute tank at D tackle. Um, I'm really, really excited to see him take on the NFL. Hang on, let me get my book. I've got a book down here.
You get it.
My handwritten notebook. But by the way, I am old enough to know and spent a lot of my life taking and writing notes, but I'm also young enough to have now spent the majority of my life typing. So this
Hmm.
whole writing a lot of notes is it has ruined my hands um the last few weeks. but I've been determined to do it all handwritten. So let me get back over to my defensive side of the ball. So with James Pearce Jr. is someone I've been really excited with at defensive edge. So I'm just trying to go off the kind of the listings I've given. My so Abdul Carter and James Pearce Jr. are my top two. Shamar Stewart is someone that I've been
Mm.
really looking quite hard at as someone who could fall towards the late 20s in the draft, just because obviously with most of my focus has been who could the Lions get towards late on in the
Of course,
draft.
of
So
course, of course.
Shamar Stewart and Nick Scott Scourton have both Aggies, Texas A&M Aggies. Uh, didn't watch as much Texas A&M last year as I probably feel like I should have done because they were quite good last year. But both of them are heavily on my radar, as well as the Georgia Bulldog, Michael Williams, who
Hmm.
I did watch quite a bit of last year, as I did watch quite a few Georgia Bulldogs games. But I do think someone like Michael Williams, I think he goes before the Lions have a chance to get him, although I have
Yeah.
seen just going off previous history with Brad Holmes, if there's someone there that you really, really, really like, go and get them. Um, Jihad Campbell, and that's a name that I kind of want. I implore everybody to go and look at Jihad Campbell, where he falls
Linebacker
to.
out of Alabama.
Yep, linebacker out of Alabama. Well, he's one of those outside linebackers who
Yeah.
basically plays that weird. You could line him up as an edge, you could line him up as a linebacker, and both of those would make sense.
The,
Um,
the thing with a player like that, which he's off the board for the Falcons, I think, just because you need to have some pieces in place on that defensive line, and then you get to use him as an auxiliary piece. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because these tweeners that come out of the SEC specifically, they need there needs to be some infrastructure there, if that makes
yeah.
any sense. You can't make him like Michael Parsons is a great example of that, where sorry, anyway, I interrupted you. But I agree with you. He's great.
Yeah, yeah, he's someone that really excites me as well as again another Georgia Bulldog, Jalen Walker. I've got really high. He's my second linebacker on out of everything I've seen.
He's
Um,
another he's another one of those.
yeah, exactly. So going over to the corners, Jade Barron. Well, we spoke about Travis Hunter. Um, the less kind of said about him at this point, the better because we can focus on other people.
Hmm.
But Jade Barron, really, really exciting, 5'11",
Mm-hmm.
coming out of Texas. Fact, I wouldn't judge the fact that he's five. Some people putting the fact that he's 5'11" against him. He's 200 pounds, but boy, is he quick! He's so quick.
Mm.
Really, really good, especially in man. Will Johnson, another Michigan Wolverine, who really, really exciting. Gutted that he did not. He missed half of last season through an injury. Um, some people like to say injury in air quotation marks, gave up on the season. I don't believe that's the case.
Hmm.
But I really, really, really like him. He's very, very good. And everywhere I look, Travis Hunter is number one listed as a quarterback, as a cornerback. But Jade Barron and Will Johnson, it depends on who you're looking at. Depends on whether who's after Travis Hunter, CB1 and CB2. Both of them, both highly projected to go inside the top 10 between both of them. Um, and then Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. Very, very exciting for me as well. These are all players that are just kind of coming up off the top of my head that are going to go early,
You,
I
you've
think.
mi- you've missed an edge player that I was really sad you haven't talked about yet.
Go back a page. Mike Green.
There we
Mike Green
go.
out of
Yeah,
Marshall.
absolutely.
6'4", 248 pounds, redshirt sophomore. He was brilliant this year. But again, it's one of those. I don't know if it's did not watch enough Marshall this year. He's still third edge on my board, but
Not a
excellent.
lot of people, but what you can do is Google his Senior Bowl,
Yes.
where he basically was told to go home because he was wrecking everybody, and they were like, "You." There was a joke that they basically the NFL scouts call the agent and say, your guy doesn't need to be out here anymore. That's how good he was. And he was taking on one of the big tackles, one of the two tackles that I think is going to go. Um, I shouldn't say because I can't remember who it was. It might have been Will Campbell if he was there. But anyway, um, or Tyler Booker, I can't remember. But anyway, it was good talent, and he was crushing. So come on, Falcons, just an edge, just one first round edge rusher, please.
Um, no, okay, yeah, he's excellent. Did watch him in the Senior Bowl, and he was fantastic. And then as far as safeties go, my top three. Um, but again, I wouldn't. In fact, I'll give him a top four because I really like the fourth one. Upton Stout out of Western Kentucky, Akalai Arnold out of the USC, Dean Clark out of Fresno State, and Elijah Clark, who I really like, out of Syracuse.
Hmm.
Um, the safeties I would not expect to be going particularly high. One, maybe two
Yeah.
of them might go in the first round, but don't need to remember a couple of those names until Friday night.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, those are kind of the majority of players I've got. I guess in
Yeah.
my top three or four each season.
Where's your man Will Johnson on this? I didn't hear his name called at all. I guess we didn't really talk about all the defensive
I
backs,
did
but
at corner. Jade
oh,
Barron
you
and Will
did. Okay,
Johnson.
you did mention McCorner. I was waiting for his name. Sorry, that's my bad.
Um, yeah, Jade Barron and Will Johnson, both of them at corner. And like I said, they are both consensus top 10 picks between them. No, that doesn't seem to change depending on who you look at. What
Hmm.
changes is which one is CB1 and which one is CB2 behind Travis Hunter.
Right.
Um, and because I even mentioned the fact that he missed half the season with the injury. That, but it's really exciting, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Some of those cornerback talents are something else. Um, Jade Barron is absolutely brilliant. I've loved watching Jade Barron all year, and I'm sure if Sam was here right now, I would no one would get to talk about Jade Barron because Sam would have all of that wrapped up to tell us how great he is.
Bless
Notice
you.
how the vast majority are SEC defensive players.
I mean, they tend to work. They tend to work in the NFL.
Apart
But
from, I said, this D line is pretty. Actually, kind of. Yeah, D line is a little bit Big Ten heavy, but the rest of them are very, very heavy, especially at the top end, very, very SEC heavy.
yeah. Well, but quarterbacks come from, the what was the Pac-12 and and
Yeah.
blah blah blah, so it's always funny.
Um.
Um,
Go.
I'm just gonna say that I know we're gonna get more team specific at some point
Yeah.
soon in the next week before building up to the draft. But like, I'm really glad that the Falcons are, if they're gonna have a top 15 pick in a draft that is mostly with defense, because they need defense, like,
Well.
and like, because it's always like, we've needed defense for an eternity, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it sets up nice in this draft. But not to say that there aren't good offensive players, but it's not
Yeah.
quite as loaded on
Well,
that side.
what I found really interesting was I got this told to me a couple of weeks ago that at the combine last year, the only person taken with the Falcons with Raheem Morris and whatnot with was the quarterbacks coach. And then you take Michael Penix Jr. He only
Hmm.
took defensive guys with him this year to the combine. And only coaches on the defensive side of the ball attended with Raheem Morris and Fontenot. So hopefully that spells good signs for the Falcons going all in on defense this year in the draft.
We'll
Um,
see. I'm sure we'll talk more about it coming up, but
yeah. So I've got a little bit of trivia for you. It's not a trivia question. Um,
okay.
it's just a little bit of
This is
trivia.
always dangerous.
Um, oh no, some of the information's been removed. So I did have a tiny bit. There we go. Tez Johnson, Oregon wide receiver, weighed in at 154 pounds while preparing for the draft at the combine, and then at 464 pounds, Florida's defensive tackle Desmond Watson weighed in for the draft. So if my maths serves me correctly, that is a 310 pound difference between prospects at this year's NFL draft. I don't know where that ranks in terms of historical kind of highest and lowest and what that difference is, but Desmond Watson, I believe he had a scoot. I believe he went in at running back at one play this year. I can remember him doing
Really?
that. And the he's big. He he's big.
Well, now I have to Google him.
Uh, at 464 pounds. The guy
Oh,
is large.
oh yeah. Ooh, I wonder how fast he is. Oh, I've seen this dude.
I believe he went in at running back for one play. I could be wrong, but I do believe he
I've
went in at running back for one play.
Yeah, I've seen this dude. Florida player. That's right. I've seen this guy before.
Oh,
464. He might be the head. Well, it's got to be the biggest because this dude might be the biggest, the heaviest player in the NFL. How tall is this guy?
32. So for anyone who doesn't do the formula for stone and pounds,
Yeah.
that's just shy of 32 and a half stone. Because that's ridiculous.
I just want to see how tall he is. I'm assuming he's like six something, obviously. Anyway,
Uh, 1.98 meters. So that'd be six, 6.5 foot.
6.5. So 6'5" or 6'6".
Yeah, 6'6".
Have you seen, okay, this is apropos, well, there's apropos of something, but have you seen the SNL skit where it's the revolutionary guys and they're like saying all the stuff that they're going to establish America with, and it's like all the ridiculous stuff that they actually did,
Yes.
which, yeah, yeah, and then
Yeah.
some of it's like modern, but it's just really funny, but they're like, and it's like, because when you learn this stuff in American history, and it's like, obviously you learn the metric system, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, they just did a lot of things out of spite. Like just a lot of choices out of
Yeah.
spite.
And
Trust me, as a kid, when you're like, wait, we could just be counting by tens and these little things, but we got to do inches and half inches and quarter inches. Like, oh man, less math. Sorry.
uh, absolutely fine. It's a good sketch that as well because I'd quite like going through old. Well, I say old. Going through SNL skits.
That
Um,
one's not that old. That one's from like the last 2 years.
no, but
Um,
I
but
do
no, I say that we wouldn't have yards and we wouldn't have football.
true.
Come on. So I guess
Um,
some good things happen. I tied it back in. I tied it back in.
you did. No, I think for the most part, I think this is a good way. We've had a good little welcome into the draft
Yeah,
this week. Um, I think we can
but
we can wrap it up with a couple of offensive players though.
sure.
Um, is there anyone that
What
you? Sorry, we're gonna say.
I was going to ask you about, I was going to ask you because I to not let what the audience has already probably perceived. You've done a lot more homework. You got your notebook out.
Yeah,
The problem is I listen to a lot of podcasts. I receive a lot of information. I don't retain that information. And then I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I want to ask you about is who is your favorite offensive weapon outside of Ashton Jinty, unless it
outside
really
of
is
that.
Ashton Jinty, that you are excited to see where they go?
Um, I'm like, this is gonna sound really, really sad, but I'm really excited to see just to see where they go and how again the dominoes then fall after it because I think sometimes that's the more important the not more important, that's the more fun thing is seeing how one domino affects the next one is the tight ends. Because I think
That would be my guess.
you've got a couple of really good tight ends coming out this year in Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. And just to see where they go, and again, it's another one of them where it depends on who you're speaking to on what day at what time.
Yeah.
Who's tight end one, who's tight end two. Gunnar Helm as well, obviously throw him in there. He's a really exciting prospect to go and look at. Um, I am also quite interested in looking at the wide receivers and
Yeah,
wide
that's
receivers
that's
ball.
one because there's last year we just had like oodles of them. And from what I understand, there's a couple of like, there's obviously the kind of the top couple top tier, but then everybody else is like their ceiling is probably being a wide receiver too in this league. But obviously you never know.
Yeah.
Um, um,
There are potential for quite a few exciting NFL players into you got obviously we've got Tataria McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka. As much as I don't want to see that one be exciting, I think he has obviously everything. Ohio State do produce very good wide receivers in the NFL.
mhm.
It's a reality that we live in. Matthew Golden as well is someone who I think they're just players who could be really exciting in the NFL and whether they produce straight out the bat and whether they're electric out the bat or not. I just it's their careers will be the story rather than other. And then what I'm really excited to see is Cam Scatterby
Yeah.
because. And I want to see just how much of the hype he received towards the end of last season factors into how he's seen across the board.
Well, I mean, come on, like watching that playoff game, where he single-handedly just was willing his team to like competence. Like, I mean, that was one of the most fun feats I've seen in a college game in a long time. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
obviously win, but dude, I mean, he did everything. He was like, yeah, I mean, he's real small, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. But this is where I think some of the question comes in for me is we can talk about the physical traits. Yes, he has the ability. We've seen it. He can do it. But where does like that mentality kind of thing fit in? Because you put him on the biggest stage, or as much as the biggest stage as he could get, and he showed up. And he didn't look out of place, or he didn't seem to hit him in his head that he didn't belong, and he seemed to go out there. And that kind of mentality in a player, and that kind of the ability to step up when you needed, and not shy away from the big moments, is something that I would hope that NFL teams are looking at and saying, well, if you don't shy away from arguably the biggest game of your career, then hopefully you are able to walk into an NFL locker room and okay, maybe not feel exactly at home straight away, but the moment's not going to be too big for you. Or
No, no, no. I mean, I think this he's definitely, I mean, I don't want to sound pejorative here, but like I think he's definitely got special teams abilities he's probably
yeah,
can do. And then yeah, he can work in. I mean, there's been running backs his size before. Obviously,
yeah,
there's so it'll be interesting. I think yeah, again, I think he's a player that needs to go to like a Sean Payton or a Kyle Shanahan or a McVay who has a very specific plan, doesn't ask him to do certain things, and and can utilize his skill set and see if they can make something of him. So I
yeah.
hope he goes somewhere that, again, I hope all these guys that goes like we all want to see good football. So I hope all these guys go to, you know, somewhere that's cool and gets the most out of them. Um,
Exactly.
last question for you before we get going. I know we're going to talk more about specific team stuff and all that stuff coming up, but and we've already talked a little bit about the Falcons, but is it necessary? Like, y- I know you always want more stuff on defense, but like,
Yeah.
is that your need, or is it just like, hey, it feels like it's a defensive draft, so we should go there? Oh,
There we go.
or is it just like you'd be happy because you feel like a team that kind of outside of a few, I'm not re you know, I'm it doesn't feel like you guys have a lot of needs. So you could double up on something if a great player falls to you that you already have sort of some of, or I don't know. Anyway, you answer
Yeah.
the question. I think you know what I'm asking.
I mean, it's one of those. I think sometimes you've got to get into the point of best player available, or I trust the regime that we've got in order for them to say if they just say no, this is just they're just someone who's right for the franchise, then they're right for the
Yeah.
franchise. I think if I was the GM, I am still looking at defense. I'm just looking at the way the defensive side of the ball last year was decimated. I'm looking at how how can we best bolster that and put ourselves in a continuously better position. And even if it's 90% of what we're looking at is backups, have we got better backups? And that, I mean, to be fair, at one point last year, there were certain positions where we were in like fifth stringers and we were pulling in guys out of crowds and saying, "Listen, what size jersey are you? We've got a couple in the back." Um,
Hmm.
they were just having a more solid depth and also and just having that. So I think for me it will be defense. For me, it's also defensive end. Um, I think that line with another higher quality defensive end would be electric. I loved what obviously we all loved what Aiden Hutchinson was doing to start the season before he was injured. He was on a defensive player of the year run. Um, he was then Aleem McNeil has been fantastic. And DJ Reader with him has been fantastic. So and what Zadarius Smith seemed to bring over those last few weeks was something we just felt like we were missing for a couple of weeks without him. So I
I mean,
still
come
think
on, but I mean, you had the year from hell with injuries, and more than likely that was a one-off. And my team's been there before. I get it. It sucks.
um but that seems to be the only place where we're kind of still not I say not missing anything, but we're still not quite 100% there. Just the entirety of the defensive line. The linebackers we were quite happy with, and we're very happy with where we're at with them with Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell, and having Malcolm Rodriguez kind of coming in and out. And we've not lost anyone. With the DBs, we've not lost anyone serious that we need to panic about losing. And on the offensive side of the ball, it's the same thing. And I feel like we've kind of had the same roster by maybe one or two people for 2 years now. Um,
Hmm.
I think the only person we lost last year was Josh Reynolds, and then we brought in Tim Patrick, and it became like Josh Reynolds again. And Tim Patrick's back. We've not lost anyone serious on offense apart from Kevin Zeitler. So maybe some offensive line would be really nice and some kind of for that rotation. But I think again, yeah, for me, priorities defensive end. But it's not if we don't take a defensive end with that position, unless it's Shamar Stewart. If Shamar Stewart falls to us right there and we don't take him, I'd be annoyed. But you can't go wrong with I think any of those three. Get some offensive line, some DB, or a defensive end.
That sounds good. Well, we'll see how it goes.
No worries. Well, just before we wrap up, I want to ask you really, really, really quick because there's so much more going on in the world at the moment. Which I'm gonna finally give you your opportunity to talk about the UFL because I know you're so passionate about it. And then obviously the last week the MLB season has started back up. Um,
Wow.
so
Mean. I mean, I am wearing a Braves cap, so that's fair.
hence I wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't wear it. Obviously the Braves have not had the best start,
No.
but
The
MLB
Braves
season's
offensive
back.
has not had the best start.
But the MLB season is back, and that's nice. We've got the NBA season that's playoffs are officially being clinched, and we're getting ready to get into the postseason. Record like a greatest goal scorer in NHL history
Yeah, that was exciting last night.
became a thing yesterday. Took over. What's his name? Sorry, took over Wayne Gretzky's record.
Wayne Gretzky's record.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't remember who it was who took it over.
So
Um,
there was a time in America where Wayne Gretzky, the great one,
yep.
Michael Jordan, and Bo Jackson had a animated cartoon show called something something. I can't remember it. Saturday morning cartoon. Yes, it was amazing. So, uh, and none of them played the actual, it was all other people's voices doing their voices for
Um,
them.
Alex Ovechkin,
Yes.
that's the name of the guy who took Gretzky's record. Yeah, I know. So I don't know if you saw the videos of it happening and everyone kind of coming in onto the rink and
Yeah, it
celebrating.
was
It was
cool.
just
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
really, really nice to see. Um, just sports is just kind of happening at the moment. It's a really good time of year for things. Um, and obviously, I'll finally give you a proper opportunity now to talk about the UFL because you asked me for it before. I'm gonna let you do it. The UFL, we do have football now. Again, in the UK, DAZN have taken on the rights for the UFL. This wasn't NFL news, so I wasn't including it at the start. But we, and so now you can watch the UFL on weekends. But more importantly, Britball's back.
There you go.
Britball is back. The season started this weekend, just gone. Do you know what I bought the other day, Chapman? A season ticket to Manchester Titans.
There you
Because
go.
those are a thing now. We've got four games, home games, £30, and you get some nice little added extras in with that. Football's football, and four, maybe five games for £30 is you don't get that many other places anymore. Uh,
That's true.
so did you watch any of the UFL this weekend?
I did not.
You did not. All right.
I'm a bit, I've told you this. I'm a big believer. F Football is like, for me, you have to put it down. You have to like, that's why it's so great because you need to take a step away after the draft. Like after the draft, I'm just like,
Yeah.
May, June, and a little bit of July. You're just, and then then the hunger starts again. And then you start getting that because like if you and this is why I think summer leagues are good because it helps with talent and stuff. But for me personally, I like getting my batteries refueled, getting my want, you know.
Get you on the
So
spot. What other sports are you tending to watch in that time then? Or are you just sports?
I used to never watch the NBA. I love when the NBA comes. Playoff NBA is great, awesome because it's best of seven or best of five and best of seven.
Yeah.
And when the league's, league's got so much talent right now, it's really good. So I'll be excited about that. Hoping the Hawks can, maybe play into something for fun. And then, I kind of take a break there in sports. I mean, baseball is fun, but I really won't like if there's a good, I was excited about Braves Dodgers and then, got my heart broken twice. But if there's some good series in the summer, I'll do that. And then I'll the Masters this weekend. I love the Masters, obviously, because it's in Augusta, Georgia,
Yeah.
like one of the really unique. So it's kind of it's kind of spotchy, I guess. I don't know what that word I just said was. I mean, but yeah. Um, you sort of just kind of have to after the draft, man, it's just sort of like let's go outside and be outside for a while and not watch
Yeah.
TV. So, but
Okay.
that's me. But
Cool.
yes, you were referring to the fact that the Braves have won one game and they went 0 and 7, and then they've won one game out of 10, I think. So it's not a
Oh,
great start.
so sounds like a comeback to me. Uh,
We were the comeback kids at one point, so we'll see what happens. How those Lions doing right off the bat? Tigers, sorry.
Tigers. I think we're 5-4.
I
Started off.
mean,
We started off playing the Dodgers.
yeah.
We got swept
Well,
by
we
the
did too.
Dodgers.
We got swept
Uh,
by the Padres. 4 games.
so that's
Whew.
that's that's never the favorite thing to do. But I think you can kind of hold your hands up a little bit at that point and go, it was the Dodgers at the end of the day, and the amount of money
Yeah.
that's been put into the Dodgers. Um, it is what it is. But they seem to be getting good. We've just swept the Chicago White Sox, which was really nice.
There you
It was
go.
fun to
One of your
watch.
nemesis.
Um, which obviously my daughter loved watching.
Yeah.
She absolutely adored watching baseball.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
which everyone would have known that anyway. But no, it's been a nice little start. Pretty much average, but we've been swept and we've swept someone. So
Well, 182 games. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, well, actually, to be fair, just to kind of end on that, I said we were away last weekend, me and Mrs. Fletch, and I was kind of obviously baseball's one of those. There's 100, like I say, there's 162 games. You're not watching all of them, and that's okay. And some of them start at 2 in the morning, and you're not gonna watch them ones, and that's okay because given what you sat there watching, so we'll leave that one. That's fine. So I get the scores up on my phone, and I said, "Oh, woke up on I think walking down beach on Saturday. I said, oh, that's a bit crap. That the Tigers have started 0-2." And she said, "But what do you think?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. There's only 160 games left. I don't know
Hmm.
whether we could even um just a nice little way. Just 160 games left. It means so little in April."
You just got to stay 500 till the All-Star break, and then the season kicks in. So it's like it's the Thanksgiving of baseball, the All-Star break. So
Oh, and they're beating the Yankees right now, 3-1.
there you go.
I'll take that.
Always nice when the Yankees lose.
Everyone loves the Yankees. Yeah.
Well, good seeing you,
So
buddy.
and you go have a lovely rest of, well, have a lovely rest of your day. We will see you all next week as we really ramp up the draft talk. We'll have a couple more people on with us. And as always, actually totally forgot. Head to the link in the description. Head to the link in the description. Come join our Discord. Come talk all things with us, whether it's sports, film, TV. We've got channels for everything. Come and spend the off season with us. We'd love to have you. And yeah, see you next week.